Right, so hello and welcome to part 2 of the network series here on my channel. Today we're going to be setting up a load of the networking gear. In part 1 we ran hardline Cat 6 up into my room, which is now all in place and working. And in this episode we're going to be installing a router, a NAS, a new switch. So let's get into the video and let's crack on with setting up some network gear. The first step in terms of setup is actually removing all the old equipment I used to use. So this is just a access point which we'll be reusing, which keeps falling off, and then this switch will be getting replaced as well, because that one's only a 100 megabit rated one, I want a faster one, so we'll be taking that out as well. Because I used to use power line adapters in order to get internet to my access point, whereas now I'll be using our hardline, which if you'd like to see how I ran the hardline, check out part 1 on my YouTube channel. So I've now pulled my desk out and cleared all the old stuff out and had a little bit of a tidy up behind here. And I thought I'd run you through all the gear I'm going to be installing. So the main reason I actually wanted to run a hardline was I've bought myself a Synology 2-bay NAS. So that's sort of, I wanted to have a decent connection to the internet to be able to make the most out of that. And then along with that I've got an internal hard drive and an external for a secondary backup, and then going to a gigabit Ethernet switch. Again, wanted to upgrade from my old little 100 megabit unit going up to gigabit to connect to the NAS better. And then for my room I'm going to be using this TP-Link 300 meg access point to give me Wi-Fi. And then for the living room, where we've run a other Cat 6 line, I'm going to be using this X-Display unit 300 megabit. Well, it's a router that can be configured as a access point, and that will cover most of our needs for the house. But in case of any dead spots, I'm then going to use, well, hopefully avoid. But if I need to, I've got these old Netgear access points and power line adapters to hopefully bridge any dead spots. And then finally we've got loads of cabling to get it all connected up. So I'm going to start unboxing stuff and start getting things configured and plumbed in. So I haven't really been able to film what I've been doing because it's quite difficult down here, but we've got most of the stuff plugged in now. So I've got the switch mounted. I've screwed it on this time rather than faffing around with double-sided stuff. We've got all our stuff plugged in, and the main cable coming in here, and then all these going off to various things. Then got the NAS sat here, which is to be configured. I haven't done anything with that yet. There isn't even a hard drive in it. And we've got the access point here, which I got to reconfigure as well because, well, currently it's not set up to actually broadcast any network. So I've got to do that, and then try and make some sort of sense or order of this. But so far that's how it's coming along. I've also, not relevant to the network, but fitted this. It's a little amplifier which is going to replace my hi-fi, just to tidy this little corner up a little bit. So I'm going to put all this back, and then we'll start looking at some of the setup involved in some of the various items. Most applicable probably the access point. I won't go too much detail into the NAS because there's plenty of videos on setting up Synology NASs, so we'll leave that for today. If you now join me sat at my desk, we're going to configure this first access point. I'm not going to do both because they're both TP-Link units, so they're both going to be rather similar in terms of the setup. So first of all, I've got it plugged in. I've got it plugged into the gigabit switch, and then what we first of all want to do is we want to open our settings on our phone. So I'm going to grab my phone here. I'm going to open the settings, go into Wi-Fi, and you can see I'm connected to TP-Link 3862, which is the default broadcasted network from the access point. The password for it will be on the bottom, and then what we want to do is we want to go and open Safari. I want to open the default web address, which in this case is http //tplinkwifi.net, which is on the bottom as well with the sticker. They're quite good now at putting everything on the bottom of the actual units. You don't lose the instruction booklet like most. Then we want to enter our username and password, which default is both admin, without the capital, that is. Oh, now I seem to remember the last time I did this. And we want to go ahead and log in. We don't want to save that password because we're going to be changing it later. So, oh, let's not do that. To continue, press next. So you can actually do just a quick setup, which I'm going to go ahead and do, and I'm setting this up as a access point. Next, and then we change the wireless network name, which I'm going to call the Wi-Fi, because why not call it the Wi-Fi? And then we can set a password, of which I'm now going to blur this out because you don't want to be looking at my password. There we go, so I've now created a password, and I'm going to click next at the bottom of this screen. From here we can then set up the IP address for the actual access point, of which I'm going to go with static, and we're going to go with 1.20 for this, and disable the DHCP server because I'm still plugged into our provider's router, which will do the DHCP server for us. Otherwise you end up running it twice, and I think, if I'm correct, that causes you a lot of issues, so make sure you turn that off if you're still using your default router. And then we click next. Changing work mode, yeah, so it will then need to reboot, and then that will be our network set up as an access point, and that's as simple as it is. I'm then going to do that again with the other TP-Link unit. But if you haven't ever set one of these up before, they're so simple nowadays. You can literally just go through the quick setup, that's it, job done, nothing else to do. And there's a couple of things we can tweak later on, but I'm probably just going to leave it as is. So let's now click next, this will reboot, and we should have the network up and running. I've just run a speed test while connected to the access point, and we're pulling 37 and 5 meg up, which isn't bad given wired we only get 42, so that slight drop over the network isn't too bad. Although still not great, so I think I'm going to try and see if there's anything I can do to improve that, because I know in terms of on the access point you can tweak which channels you're using, so I need to go and work out which ones are least busy, but also it's coming up to 6 o'clock in the evening now, so it's kind of peak time, so the speeds do tend to drop off a little bit, but overall I'm quite impressed with that. So I'm going to now go ahead and set up these 2 access points for further access around the house. So I've now gone ahead and got all these 3 all set up, all with their own IP addresses, and all with their reset passwords, and they're all set to be the same SSID, so that they can, once you connect to one of them, you should be able to seamlessly walk around the house and select each one. So this one's going to be up in my room, I'm going to have this one based in the living room, and this one's just going to go in a storage cupboard as a bit of a booster, and that one's just going to be connected via power line adapters, but that's only sort of like a bridge just to sort of assist in one of the dark spots of the house for Wi-Fi, so that's not too critical, and plus it's only gone and fallen apart, but also this one's only rated for 54 megabits. So I'm just going to give you a quick tour of our home network now that everything's set up. So I'm going to start in the office where the main ISP router is. So here we have our Vodafone main box here, which is then where all of our Ethernets run out of. 2 of them of which run over to our Cat6 faceplate that we run. One for my bedroom, one for our living room. I've then also got one running out into this power line adapter, which runs one of the access points in an area where we wouldn't have got Ethernet. So that's it for in the office. So we're now in the living room, where we have that faceplate just there with an Ethernet in. That then runs to this TP-Link router, which is configured to give broadband to the living area. So that's all there is in here. And now you join us on the centre floor, where in this storage cupboard, just up there, you can see it flashing away, is the access point plugged into the power line adapter, just to give the middle floor a bit better access. And then we continue on up to my room, where we still have a lot of networking gear all over the place, but there is the faceplate in that corner which runs Cat6 along here to power this access point, which is all plugged into the network switch there, which also connects me to my NAS. And that's it. home network tour. So if you enjoyed part 2, today we've got everything set up, and I hope it demonstrates actually how easy it is to get up and running with a home network along with a NAS and all of the sort of bits to get you all connected. It only took me a couple of hours to get everything up and ready. I mean, I'm quite hands-on with this sort of stuff, but you literally just follow all the quick start guides and you're there and set up. I haven't done anything particularly fancy here. It's just following quick start guides. I haven't gone into depth about the NAS because everyone and their nan has made a video about setting up a Synology, and there's probably the same for the TP-Link, but I thought that was quite useful to go through in terms of actually setting up a Wi-Fi network. But other than that, that is it. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. In the next video, I'm going to be looking at how much I actually spent building this network to hopefully sort of see that this is quite a budget approach, and I hope you can appreciate, obviously, everything is sort of either second hand or relatively cheap, so you can sort of see whether you want to actually invest in some of this network gear yourself. So check that in a couple of weeks. Please subscribe and turn on notifications to know when I upload, and I'll catch you in the next one.